Okay, kids, we have come to a new chapter now called There is Something in the Air. You know what that means when you say there's something in the air? Usually you mean, ooh, I sense some exciting thing coming. But here we are talking about the atmosphere and its structure. You may already know. If you don't know, don't worry. Atmosphere is a layered, which means if you look at the temperature, it is warmest near the surface typically and keeps on cooling to the top of the atmosphere. Where is the top of the atmosphere? Well, for now we will just assume it's the so-called troposphere. Beyond that, there are many other layers where the temperature begins to increase again, and that is related to some things you may already know, like the sun's energy coming in different bands of energy. What we get at the surface is visible light, and it has certain amounts of energy. There is something called the ultraviolet rays that we don't want because some of them can seriously damage our skin and DNA and so on. Fortunately, the most powerful of those ultraviolet rays get absorbed in the layer above the troposphere called the stratosphere, and they are separated by something called the tropopause and so on. And in the stratosphere, oxygen molecules are bombarded by this high energy UV, which splits the oxygen and combines with another oxygen molecule to make ozone, which you may have heard of. Ozone absorbs the bad UV that we don't want, and some other UV that comes to the surface that's not so harmful to us. Okay, so all these layers and the gases matter. Nitrogen and oxygen make up most of the atmosphere, as you know, but they allow the sun's energy to come in, and they allow the thermal energy or the infrared energy to go back out to space. So they are not greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases, as we saw before, are like carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor, which allow the sunlight to come in, but they absorb the outgoing thermal energy, which means they act like a blanket and warm the planet, which is good, except when they do too much of it. Too much of anything is not good. You eat too much, that's not good, things like that. So greenhouse gases are very useful, but we are increasing them now so much that they are trapping too much energy, and we are having climate change, global warming, and so on, which we don't want, right? So we'll continue in the next podcast.